Welcome to Infinite Horizon, where heart and intuition light the path on a journey that harmonizes spirit and mind, exploring stories of courage, healing, and transformation. A journey of self-discovery and healing. I invite you to join me on a journey, one that traverses not just rugged landscapes, but the uncharted territories of the human spirit. This is a tale of resilience, a quest for healing that demanded every ounce of my mental and physical strength. It led me through scorching deserts, over snow-covered mountain passes, and into encounters with some of the most inspiring and loving people I have ever known. This story begins in pain, physical, emotional, and spiritual, but it moves towards something transformative, a revelation of what it means to heal. I hope, as I share it with you, you might find yourself in its echoes and feel inspired to embark on your own journey toward understanding and wholeness. The origins of my journey are deeply rooted in childhood trauma. From my earliest days, life seemed to conspire against peace. Born into circumstances where my mother, though physically an adult, was unprepared to care for her children, I spent the first months of my life in a hospital. The absence of a caregiver during this critical period left its mark. Instinctively, even as a baby, I knew survival depended on connection, yet no comforting arms were there to hold me. Nurses came and went, but they could never replace the nurturing presence I craved. In those months of isolation, patterns were forged, self-soothing behaviors, an almost primal fear of abandonment, and an inability to fully trust that I was safe. As I grew older, these patterns deepened. The fear of being left behind never truly left me, manifesting in relationships, career stress, and even casual encounters. It wasn't until much later, through reading books like Nadine Burke-Harris's The Deepest Well and Gabor Mate's When the Body Says No, that I began to understand the profound physiological toll this fear was taking on me. Trauma, they explained, rewires the body. Chronic cortisol and adrenaline spikes can disrupt brain function and wreak havoc on the nervous system. Over time, this leads to changes in how the body develops, often resulting in chronic illnesses, heightened risk of heart attacks, and unexplained panic attacks. These were no longer mysteries, they were consequences of an unresolved past. By my late 20s, I had become a shell of myself. Work consumed my energy. Personal relationships felt shallow or strained. I was burned out, exhausted, and emotionally numb. On the surface, I was functioning, meeting deadlines, showing up, keeping up appearances, but inside, I was crumbling. Eventually, my body could no longer keep up. Burnout forced me to stop. It was as if the universe itself had intervened, saying, "Enough." In the stillness that followed, the Pacific Crest Trail began to call to me. This wasn't a sudden impulse, but the culmination of years of quiet whispers. A hiking trip in Big Bear had planted the seed. A chance encounter with a PCT hiker watered it. And then, a seemingly ordinary moment, watching the movie Wild with my stepmother after my father's death, became almost spiritual. The way the protagonist's journey mirrored my own unresolved grief reached into my core. I knew deep down that this was something I needed, and perhaps my stepmother needed it too. Months later, I made the leap. I quit my job, packed my gear, and set out on a 2,650-mile journey from Mexico to Canada through deserts, forests, and mountains. The PCT was everything I expected and nothing I could have imagined. The desert tested me first, with its unrelenting heat, its scarcity of water, and the endless miles of dust. My body ached in ways I hadn't thought possible. Blisters became my constant companions, and thirst gnawed at me like a living thing. Then came the snow-covered passes of the Sierra Nevada. Here, every step was treacherous. The snowfields stretched for miles, their deceptive beauty hiding the ever-present danger of a misstep and a fatal slide. Fear became as much a part of the trail as the physical challenges. But in those moments of fear and exhaustion, something else began to emerge: connection. On the trail, I found a family. Fellow hikers, each with their own reasons for being there, became my lifeline. We shared stories, burdens, and triumphs. For the first time, I felt seen. Emotions that had been buried under years of stoicism began to surface. My upbringing had taught me that emotions were a weakness, that physical pain should be endured in silence, and that mental health struggles were a sign of failure. These beliefs had shaped me, but on the trail, they began to unravel. There's a kind of magic in the wilderness where the barriers between people seem to dissolve. I told my story over and over of abandonment, fear, and longing, and each time I did, it hurt a little less. After the 20th retelling, I no longer felt the need to say it. The story had been heard, and its power over me began to fade. One rainy day at Warner Springs, as the heavens opened and everything I had with me became soaked, I found myself at a hiker retreat organized by a woman known as Mountain Mama. She exuded wisdom and kindness, and her retreat offered not just shelter, but something far more profound. As we practiced yoga to stave off injuries, Mountain Mama and I talked. I told her about my earliest trauma, the months in the hospital without my mother. She listened, unflinching, and explained something I had never considered. A baby instinctively knows it cannot survive without its caregiver. That fear of death, rooted in my infancy, had never left me. It now manifested in cortisol and adrenaline spikes, triggered by seemingly unrelated stressors, deadlines, arguments, or moments of solitude. Understanding this connection was a revelation. For the first time, I saw how deeply my childhood experiences had shaped my present. Healing wasn't just about understanding, it required action. Meditation, first introduced to me by a former girlfriend, who had learned it with a monk in India, became a cornerstone of my routine. On the trail, I used techniques from Emma McAdams's Therapy in a Nutshell and somatic exercises by Suki Baxter to process the emotions that arose. NET, neuro-emotional technique, helped me address the root causes of my pain by regulating my nervous system. Each method was a piece of the puzzle. Through reading, podcasts, and the wisdom of those I met along the way, I began to construct a roadmap for healing. A roadmap I hope to share with others who feel as lost as I once did. This journey isn't just mine. It's for anyone who has ever felt broken, for anyone who has carried wounds they couldn't name. I hope my stories, my struggles, and my triumphs can offer you a starting point, a spark of hope. And maybe soon you'll find your own trail to walk, your own path to healing. That's it for today on Infinite Horizon. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and explore more inspiring content on my YouTube channel under the handle Infinite Trail Horizon. See you next time.